All right, all right, all right. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Mercury retrograde. I have had so many technology glitches today. I'm just going to put out there right now that this is going to be the perfect broadcast and everything's going to go beautifully. If you're catching this on the live, welcome. I'm Coach Lois. I am a transformational coach and plant medicine woman who hosts this show every week, monologues, guests. I have an amazing guest today that I'm so excited because I haven't talked about money with a financial strategist in years. So if you guys are tuning in live, you know the drill. Comment below #live and where you're tuning in from. And if you're watching us on the replay, equally as important, I want you to be seen, be heard. Please comment below #replay and where you're tuning in from. And as you know, we do like to talk with you during the show. So we will have an opportunity if you want to ask questions or make comments along the way. I do like to acknowledge you guys for being here. So today we have someone who I've never met in person, but we connected through a mutual friend. And so Erin, who now lives in Denver, she moved from San Diego to Denver. She's a holistic, which is one of the reasons I wanted her on my show, a holistic financial strategist. And I'm so excited to talk money today. As you know, healthy and wealthy and wise is really important. A lot of people are concerned about the market, concerned about finances. I hear it more and more and more in people's conversations. So I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about your story and how did you become a holistic financial strategist?
Well, Lois, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and we get to talk face to face finally. Okay, how did I get into this? Well, I'll take you back a little ways. I got a degree in engineering, and I worked a couple of jobs as an engineer because my father was an engineer, and that's what I knew to be the safe path. And I was going to get a job. I was going to make a lot of money. I was going to buy a house and get married and have kids and do what I was supposed to do. Until I realized I was unhappy and I didn't know what to do next because I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. And I was still feeling unfulfilled and unhappy, even though my bank account balance was going up. My life seemed like it was supposed to be great. So I had hired a financial planner for myself because I didn't know what to do with my money. No one had taught me. And during this time of turbulence for me, where I didn't know where I wanted to be, I didn't want to be an engineer, I didn't know what I wanted to do, I didn't know if I could change. I didn't know if I could make a decision that ultimately was going to change the rest of my entire life. One decision could change everything. And the guidance that I received from her was around money, but also it helped with my emotional state and it allowed me to find a path forward that actually fulfilled me. And that path ended up being into the financial industry, into that role where I now get to help people who are dealing with significant financial issues. And they're in a place of turbulence where one decision feels huge and it could impact the rest of your entire life. Or, you're right, it could be a small decision. Do I buy my car or do I get a lease on my car? What do I do with my 401k? I have a business. Now what? Right? I'm buying a house. How? Those kinds of questions are the things I get to help people with now. And oftentimes people come into my office and they don't know what the next steps should be. So we sit down and we talk about what's the big picture? How can we uncover what are your deeply held values? And then I get to see that the light bulb moment go off, where they have a breakthrough of clarity around the big picture and the next steps become obvious. So that's what I live for every day, that light bulb moment, the bringing clarity to others, because that was what was so important for me and it changed the trajectory of my life. And now I get to do that. So That's me.
I love it. I do have to acknowledge, if you as an engineer, you're still working with numbers, and I think that's really a profound, like background, if you will, to be adding to that. And you're also kind of like an architect to helping design people's portfolio. So much to unpack there, because you said some things that really I had flashbacks of myself, thinking, oh, this is what you should do. Like, I should go to college, but then you have college debt, right? You should buy a house, but then you have a mortgage. And then what happens if you lose your job? Or like me, I hired a financial advisor planner like right after college, because I was starting to make money. And I knew enough that it was important to save, invest, etc. However, then I lost everything in the Great Recession, like everything, all of my investments, my real estate, and I was even homeless for a while. So what I didn't know, and I'm curious on your thoughts about going back to the shoulds, what we should have in our bank account, should own for quote unquote the American dream and success. However, what happens when life happens for you and you lose your job or you have all this debt? I think that really causes a lot of us to open up old wounds from our childhood, or open up these different worries or concerns, shame, guilt, fear, the emotions around money, the relationship with money. I had never had that trauma until I was like, 30. So, and I know a lot of people are experiencing a lot of financial stress right now. So I don't even know if I have a real question there. Is just how do you help people when life happens and you can see that, oh my gosh, their relationship with money is actually causing them just as much challenge as the market, for example?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple answers I have. The first is, I'm not your normal, average looking financial advisor, right? I'm not an old white man with a really tight tie. And I mean that in the way where money doesn't have to be overwhelming and it doesn't have to be stressful. And life happens all the time. And we get to decide what action to take in this moment right now that could lead us to a different solution. And so approaching it with a view of there is opportunity,
Mm,
even when it feels stressful and even when the outlook is bleak, right?
mm,
There's a lot of opportunity and we get to find it. We get to find it together.
mm,
And oftentimes, because we live in a society of materialism and keeping up with the Joneses and Instagram and the Kardashians, it's so easy to think that's what I should be doing. And I find all the time, most people haven't actually sat down and said, well, what do I want? What does my ideal life look like? What
mm,
does my ideal life feel like? And how can I get there, regardless of what's going on in the world? How can I get to a place where I feel secure,
mm,
where I feel happy, where my family is fed and they're happy, right? What's actually important to me, and how can we make choices, whether it's with investments or properties or insurance or cash or just the decisions that we make every day in, do I want to get my Starbucks every day or do I want to save this money? It allows us the choice. And especially in times like this where the news is yelling at you and it's red and exclamation points, bringing control back into our life by being able to make choices that we know are putting us on the path to our ideal life empowers us. And
mm.
even when everything else around us is like this, we can bring it back inward and really feel empowered that we have our path forward and we know where we're going, which can bring a little bit of alleviation of some of that stress.
I love that. Yeah. So you really take people by the hand, so they don't feel alone, and you're helping them go inward, which we'll talk about plant medicine in a second. But helping people go inward, because you're right. All we have to do is turn on the news, go onto Facebook, you see someone else bought a new car, got a new job, or they're going on that vacation. And I think some people will immediately judge themselves and compare themselves because of that keeping up the Jones, instant overnight gratification success lies that we've been shown. So I don't know if you have it. How do you work with your clients if they're comparing themselves? Do you give them any coaching around that, or specifically, how do you help them go inward and empower themselves?
It's a great question. So there's a couple different techniques that I have. The most prominent that we do is we have a process that we take everyone through in regard to their specific situation. And we really dive into that significant financial issue to kind of uncover, yes, it's about money, but what is it really about? What is it about on the inside? And I have a couple of tools that I've acquired over the years. We met through Corinne, she's a doll, and I learned NLP, neuro linguistic programming, through her and her trainer, which helps with communication. And it also taught me, you had brought it up earlier, right? The things that we have learned from ages 0 to 8 years old, those programs that we have running habitually, we don't realize it's a habit and it's a pattern, and we learned it from our parents or our grandparents, and it was passed down to us. And so taking a step back and looking at the big picture and bringing awareness to what is the pattern then allows us to see it happening, and then we can make changes if we want to change that pattern. And there's a couple different ways to do that: plant-based medicine, some NLP tricks, different types of coaching, and just reprogramming that specific program. I've noticed a lot of times money, we think about it as numbers and Excel spreadsheets and formulas, and it's emotions. At the end of the day, it's how we feel, it's what we want, and it's what we've learned growing up.
Yeah, amen to that. I'm sure you've heard and many, many times talked about, maybe with your clients. I loved The Compound Effect when I read that book by Darren Hardy. Gosh, I want to say I'm kind of dating myself here, but probably 20 years ago. And I think part of our society, because now you can just boom, order something on Amazon and it shows up 5 minutes later. Full disclosure, we just realized our refrigerator was empty. So we're like, oh, Subway, here we go. We're ordering Subway. So we're so used to getting results right away. And the compound effect, both health and wealth, it's a journey, right? So before we tackle into the plant medicine conversation and the wounds and things of that, from healing about the emotions around money, I'm just really curious what your thoughts are about the timeline of when you start working with someone, right? First, they got to unpack a lot of maybe unhealthy, not great habits, emotions, perspectives. I love that you have the NLP offering. How long on average you see your clients need to work with you before they start to be like, oh my gosh, I've been overspending for years, or I've been shaming myself about this, side of money, or judging myself, whatever. How long do you see changes?
So generally, when we're talking about a significant financial issue, we focus in on the one issue, and it takes about an hour. Clients will come into my office, or we'll do it over Zoom, and it takes about an hour. We'll really dig into it, and they have that breakthrough moment on that issue, and then they can start moving forward. Now, everyone is different. I have many ongoing relationships where it's life. So things are great, and then all of a sudden life happens and we realize, something that we didn't know before, and we get to go back and do some more work. We have another hour-long session. So over time, it really evolves, kind of like an onion being peeled. You take off the first layer, and then there's more onion. And that's how I think about humans. It's my favorite quote from Shrek. It really impacted me. But you fix one, I take that back. You don't fix anything. You realize, you bring awareness to something, and then there's more that you get to bring awareness to. And so it's really an ongoing, long-term relationship that I get to build with my clients.
I love it. I love it. And I was going to say that in the compound effect, I even talk about this with my plant medicine clients, my background in health and fitness. Oh my gosh, Rome wasn't built in a day. And your habits, like you said, from 0 to 8, if you're like me, I'm 45. So, oh my gosh, I had decades upon decades
Mhm.
building those habits deeper and deeper that weren't healthy for me. Um, they said in the book, The Compound Effect, the biggest changes of small, sustainable, consistent shifts, it was like 27 months was like the biggest like part of the J curve. So
Mm.
I think with money, with health, it's really important for people to remember that it's a journey, not a destination, right?
Yes. And it's all about making the journey fun, right? The destination. There's no grass is greener on the other side. Just because you hit $1 million doesn't mean your life is all of a sudden going to be better. It's, are you having a good time along the way? Are you enjoying the workout class? Are you feeling good about where you're at? And that's, I think, a mindset too that we all have been ingrained with is you get to this place and you're happy. And most of us get to that place and we realize, oh, I'm not happy. What do I do?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, actually. And I just want to acknowledge, because I know we got some people here on the live. Welcome. Comment below, #live if you're tuning in. And this is a great time. If you see value in this show, talking about money, a very touchy subject for a lot of people, please hit the share button. I always say sharing is caring, and we're just over the halfway point too. So if you have questions, if anything like triggers you and you want to say something or ask a question of our guest or myself, please do so. This is a great time to do that. So let's switch to plant medicine, because you and I have that passion in common. You understood NLP helps, communication is so important. Listening is what you do as a profession. And I feel like myself, with my relationship with money, I had a lot of trauma after I lost everything in the recession. And I wore that trauma as a badge of shame and guilt. My credit score dropped. So I put my value on how much money I wasn't making or how crappy my credit score was. And what I didn't know at the time, Erin, was I allowed that to like deepen into my soul, into my heart unconsciously. And I came from, for about 14 years until I found plant medicine, I came from that shame, that fear, that guilt in knee jerk reactions, decisions about money, my career, even selling from that space, honestly. And I was so stuck in that doing, that masculine energy of push, 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 keeping up with the Joneses, fake it till you make it, put a happy face on, right? Because I felt really, really, this like judgment on myself around I wasn't making enough money. My credit score wasn't good enough. Therefore I wasn't good enough. So I had to go the path of sacred plants. I mean, that was, I think, divinely meant for me, but it helped me shut this off because I was overanalyzing the numbers, the money, the logic, instead of coming from my heart and my purpose and my passion. So what have you experienced in plant medicine space? How has it impacted your relationship with money, but then also your emotions, and how it impacts you as a financial strategist?
It's a great question.
And
I've
it's a big one.
So over the past few years, I have felt, there's two parts of me, right? Financial strategist Erin and my spiritual, fun, bubbly self, which to me I can now see as my masculine and my feminine. And I've been finding a balance between both. And for me, plant-based medicine is something that was brought into my life in a very spiritual, sacred way. And the first thing I realized is how much of an identity we humans, especially in Western society, put on ourselves. I was the engineer. I was the oldest daughter, I was the identity that I had created, the mask that I was wearing at a specific time for different people and doing different things. And to be able to actually take a moment and feel and look inward and say, well, who is Erin?
Mm.
What is Erin?
Mm.
What's my purpose? And how do I get to live that out?
Mm.
It allowed me to have a better relationship with myself because now I know what I want and what I'm doing and where I'm going. And it also allows me to get out of my own way, especially in talking to clients. When it comes to money, when it comes to emotions, there's a lot there. And oftentimes it feels like a weight is on your shoulders.
Mm.
And if I was sitting here with my big ego and this and that and trying to sell you something, I wouldn't be able to hold the space for you to actually feel what you're feeling. And
Mm.
that I think is my biggest gift, is allowing my clients to come in and feel and express and be where they're at without judgment and
Mm.
without feeling like we have to change anything or fix anything, and just be able to sit there and say, this is the human experience that we get to live. Let's go. Like, what's next? And sometimes people are shocked by my reaction, and it kind of takes them out of that trigger state where, oh, woe is me and things are hard. And well, okay, great. It's like, what? And that gets you to start thinking about new solutions and new ways of thinking
Mm.
about things. And plant-based medicine is not for everyone. I will say that,
Yeah.
right? It was something that really helped me, and it is something that's a big part of my life. And the reason is that it's showed me how to interact with other people and build relationships from a place of love, from a place of heart, instead of from a place of fixing or the analytical, this is what's next, this is what's supposed to happen. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot more space for flow.
I love that. Yeah, which is the feminine energy, and we have, I think the relationship we have with money is the relationship we have with ourself. And so I had put so much value on external things and put myself way, way down. And thanks to plant medicine and a lot of healing and releasing and coming back to self-love and self-compassion, because I was making tons of money 2 years ago, but I was so dead inside. Money did not buy me happiness. It really is an inner journey. So I'm so grateful that you have that experience and that compassion for your clients and meeting them where they're at. Because I think a lot of times, to your point earlier, you talked about the example of the white male and the, tie and like the really formal kind of setting. I experienced that, and that's not who I hired in my 20s for my first strategist, for sure. It's important to have the balance of the feminine and the masculine when you're working with money. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Someone told me once, she said, money is the same frequency as love. And
Mm.
I have meditated on that many times. And it's a very interesting concept to kind of play around with if you haven't heard that before.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've heard, because I actually have inside of my subscription a Heal Your Relationship with Money. Money actually is neutral. It doesn't care if you have a degree. It doesn't care if you're male or female. It doesn't care if you even have a job.
Yeah.
So I've never heard that before. That's really, really profound. I mean, because yeah, we just talked about that. Self-love, self-compassion, as within,
As without,
so
so
without.
within. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. I know you talked a little bit about listening and being a listener 80% of the time, right? I think is what you said. And I think that's I just want to acknowledge that about you. For when it comes to money, I think most of us don't want to talk about it. So the fact that because that's how we grew up, right? At least most of myself, I guess I can speak for myself the most, but you don't talk about money. You just
Mm-hmm.
better make sure you pay your bills on time, and donate to the church and all of that good stuff. And that was basically the training that, we all get. But how has listening to your clients helped them shift and change their relationship with money and investing?
So I personally am a verbal processor. When I start talking, I start realizing the feelings that I'm having, because I think sometimes there can be a little bit of a disconnect with, ooh, my body hurts, but I'm just not going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And so when we start talking and expressing, and someone is there listening and giving you love and space and compassion for where you're at, it gives you permission to continue feeling, even though it's uncomfortable, or even though you might not want to. A little gentle nudge. I mean, healthy. When you're at the gym and that personal trainer is shouting at you, two more, you can do two more.
Yeah.
And so, in my own way, by me saying, you're doing a great job, and that's it, and I just stop talking, it allows people to continue feeling what they're feeling and continue talking. And they start having realizations just on their own of, oh, I didn't even realize that was why I've been spending so much. I'm unhappy in my job, and that's why I've been buying 10 pairs of yoga pants a week. Like, I'm looking for that dopamine rush.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And for me, I just get to say, that's great. What next?
Yeah, that's interesting because for a lot of us, myself included, because I a total dopamine junkie. That's why I turned to alcohol and turned to even sales. Making money can be a dopamine hit. However, it's what you do next with it that can make all the difference. And even being able to see it, I think shifting it away from a dopamine hit, but more of it's an exchange that we get for offering up a product or service. And it's really you could say a form of energy, I suppose.
Oh, yes. I think about money as a form of energy, and I don't spend money, right? So when you spend money, it ends. So instead, I circulate money and I invest money, whether it's investing in myself or investing in others. And that allows me to just have a better relationship with my exchange of energy with someone else, right? I can exchange money for services, or we can do the opposite, and it feels really good. And when we spend money, sometimes we have that fear that it's not going to come back.
Yeah.
And so, really taking that and kind of flipping it around, I agree with you. It's definitely a form of energy.
That's awesome. Well, gosh, this half hour has flown by. I do have two more questions. Technically three. Okay, I just remembered. Because this is the elephant in the room. If I'm talking to a financial strategist and I haven't asked this question, people are like, why are you not asking this question? So what is your perspective on the market right now and what's happening in the world financially?
So let me pull out my crystal ball. So there's a lot going on just in the world. It's in the United States. It's in everywhere in the world. We're having a very tumultuous time, and no one really knows what's going to happen. So the biggest thing I can say is have trust in your plan moving forward. Have trust in your government to come in and step in and support. And the companies that we have in our country, their job is to continue making money. And companies are going to figure out a way to make more money, whether they're using AI, they come up with a new product, right? They're going to continue to make money. Don't know how that's going to happen. Don't know how long it's going to take. But eventually, long term, we know things are all going to work out okay. And having that big T trust in the external is big T trust. We also need to make sure that we have the little T trust, right? Little T in ourself, in our plan, in our family, that we know even if something happens with my job, even if something happens with my children, I know we're going to be okay because I've taken steps to protect us and our family. I've met with a financial strategist. I have a plan. And having that little T trust is just as important as having the big T trust. And then everything else that happens outside of that, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you can't control everything. There's so little that we can control except what's going on internally. I love that. Thank you. Where can people find you and how can they connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Erin E. Cary, Cary. Are you going to link them below, or should I spell it all out?
No, I'll actually drop it in the show notes. Absolutely.
Great. So you can find me in the notes. You can follow me on Instagram if you want to be friends. You can follow me on LinkedIn if you want to see. My fiance and I, we're rebranding right now, so stay tuned for some big things to come. Yeah, follow me and stay tuned for the updates.
I love it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I have a closing question that I ask all of my guests. So sit tight there, Erin, while I make a few announcements. As you guys know, I have cut back on guests, but next week we have our third week in a row, and I'm super excited. This is, I think, his fifth time, a repeat offender, my spiritual mentor, the author of The Closet Spiritualist, Franco Romero. He and I are going to be talking earlier in the day. Just stay tuned to Facebook, stay tuned to YouTube for those notifications. We're super excited to be coming back and talking about the state of the world. To your point, Erin, what is happening that's out of our control? And he helped me wake up spiritually. He helped me come out of the spiritual closet and really better understand all these powerful galactic energies that are coming in, the 5D ascension. You've heard me talk about that more and more over the past 6 months because it's a real thing. And that is out of our control. However, it is also something that you can leverage and help yourself heal faster, ascend faster in both health and wealth. So please tune in. And then also on Tuesday, I have another microdosing and psychedelics 101 free class. The first one went really, really well, and I wanted to bring in even more content. So this is definitely a basic class about beginner type stuff. If you're looking into plant medicine, as you know, it's transformed my life and been a huge part of my healing journey, both in health and in wealth. Radically changed my relationship with money. We didn't even really talk much about that, but it's completely done a 180, more feminine energy there for me, for sure, being more in the flow with money. But would love to be able to talk more about that actually on Tuesday. Maybe I can share more about that. And if you guys have a desire, I also am talking more and more about my patrons. If you want to become a patron and have me give you a shout out on this show, or be a featured guest or presenter with an ad, I'm doing more of that inside of the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise community, wanting to promote and get more people the wisdom and the inspiration that comes through myself and my guests on this channel. So check it out on the link. I'll drop that in the show notes as well. patreon.podbean.com/Lois Kofi. All right, Erin, thanks so much for being here today, for sharing your awesome light and shining it into the world. And I have same question for every guest. So if you watch my show, you might know what it is. But when you hear the phrase, Erin, healthy and wealthy and wise, what does that mean for you?
It's interesting you just said it. It feels very light to me. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. It feels light. It feels without pressure. It feels in flow to me. Being healthy and wealthy doesn't necessarily, I think wealthy, a lot of times we think of money, but it could be wealthy in happiness and joy and love. And healthy doesn't mean skinny, right? It means you feel good in your body and you feel present in your human experience. And so for me, I think healthy, wealthy, and wise, all of that put together, the wise brings this kind of lightness and releases the judgment of the things we should or supposed to be associating with those words.
I love it. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again. And guys, if you saw value, hit the share button. Sharing is caring. We know that there's a lot of people with financial issues, worries, and concerns. And I know I feel encouraged from the messages that Erin shared today, and some different perspectives on even how to handle and carry yourself through a financial challenge. And of course, reach out to Erin on LinkedIn and get connected and see if maybe she can help you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Lewis. This has been wonderful and nice to meet face to face and hear about your experience. I'd love to participate Tuesday and hear about your experience with plant-based medicine and how that has changed your relationship with money. I just think it's so phenomenal to hear about all the revelations people get to have, especially around, this energy that I work with every day.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. I learned so much today. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Until next time, here's to your best health, your best wealth, and your best wisdom. Bye-bye for now.